Hey everyone! If you enjoyed this video, the full version is available on Patreon. I'll be uploading all my content there going forward.
Chapter 1. Is this okay? Shiraishi looked at himself in the mirror. I was stunned. He actually turned back into an elementary school student? What's going on? When Shiraishi woke up, he found that his house had changed, and even his body had reverted to that of an elementary school student. His soft, supple skin and short arms and legs were something he wasn't used to. That's incredible. Just as Shiraishi was dumbfounded, a torrent of memories suddenly flooded into his mind. It was then that Shiraishi realized he had traveled through time. Not only did he change his clothes, but he also became Nobita Nobi's distant cousin under the automatic arrangement of the world's will. That's right, it's Nobita Nobi, and he now calls himself Nobi Shiraishi. The world of Doraemon. The people of Beishi were stunned. In some ways, Doraemon's world is more dangerous than Marvel's or DC's. Because, in Marvel and DC, at least there are tall superheroes to keep things in check. As for Doraemon, if the phone booth changes the world, then Shiraishi, the author, would certainly be within the scope of that change as well. He certainly didn't want his perception to be changed so easily. Besides these, there are countless crises, such as the Demon Realm, the Journey to the West invasion, and the Steel Legion invasion. Shiraishi had a bit of a headache. Putting everything else aside, he's in such a state that it's hard for him to even survive, let alone what will happen in the future. Fortunately, when the world's will memory was being instilled, Shiraishi knew that he would be picked up by the Nobi family today. He has become younger, but his parents will not come back to life. In this world, the parents died in a car accident a few days ago. That's why being the parent of a time traveler is such a dangerous profession. Shiraishi shook his head helplessly, and could only apologize to his deceased parents in his heart. Cuckoo. He is currently alone at home. That must be arranged by the will of the world. If it were a legitimate arrangement, who would let a primary school student live alone and wait until the afternoon to pick him up? Shiraishi's stomach rumbled, so he jumped off the stool, found the refrigerator, and took out some bread to eat. This small body is really not very good, and Shiraishi is quite awkward about it. Ding! Host has replenished energy, proficiency system activated. New player gift pack has been sent, would you like to open it? A notification tone suddenly sounded in my ear. Baishi paused slightly, then tentatively asked, System? No response. System? Are you there? There has been no response yet. Just let me know if you're here. Still no response. Just when Beishi was about to think he was hallucinating, a habitual remark he made confirmed the system's authenticity. System, open the panel. Host, Shiraishi. Constitution **. Skill **. Prize draw chances, 0. Almost all of them were zeros, but this still made Baishi's face light up with joy. System function. This system doesn't seem to be as intelligent as one might imagine, it only responds when a certain keyword is triggered, much like an NPC in a game. The system has two functions. The first is skill proficiency. As long as the host works hard, he can gain the corresponding proficiency. The second is a lottery. The lottery can help the host obtain skills that he cannot learn on his own. Completing the tasks issued by the system can earn him lottery chances. The newbie gift pack is the only chance to obtain physique, so please make the most of it. Shiraishi understood, no wonder it's called a proficiency system. However, how I should utilize this newbie gift pack depends on luck, doesn't it? Shiraishi patted his face excitedly, washed his hands, and, too lazy to bother with any mystical practices, simply chose to open the newbie gift pack. What a joke! Of course, the sooner you gain this ability to protect yourself, the better. Open the new player gift pack. Right in front of him, a gift box-like object appeared, then suddenly exploded, spewing out fireworks, with a message in the middle. Ding! Congratulations, host, you have unlocked the newbie gift pack and obtained the Little Superman, Little Jonathan Kent, physique. Is he a superhuman? Jonathan Kent Jr.? You don't need to know who he is, just that he is Superman's son, known as Little Superman, and is half Kryptonian who can become stronger by basking in the sun. In an instant, several blue rays of light suddenly burst forth from that line of prompts, swirling around the white stone. Shiraishi felt as if he had returned to his mother's embrace, feeling incredibly comfortable. He couldn't help but close his eyes, and unknowingly floated into the air. The blue light swirled around Bai Shi several times before suddenly entering his body and then slowly landing. Bai Shi was still feeling a bit lightheaded, as the feeling just now was just too comfortable. Host, Shiraishi. Physical constitution, Little Superman. Skill asterisk. Prize draw chances, 0. Shiraishi clenched his fist. The changes were obvious. He now possessed at least the strength of an adult, and his eyesight and hearing were even stronger than those of an adult. This made him smile involuntarily, at least he was no longer a weak elementary school student. Shiraishi clenched his fist, the sudden surge of power causing him to slam his fist into the wooden table in front of him. Bang! The fragile wooden table was smashed to pieces with a single punch. Shiraishi's fist, however, was completely free of ash. Chapter 2. An average adult certainly has the strength to knock over an ordinary wooden table with a single punch. However, it usually leads to a fracture or injury to one's hand. But Shiraishi wouldn't. This is the incredible physical strength of Kryptonians. Even if Shiraishi's strength is only that of a normal adult, his defensive capabilities far exceed that of an adult. Bai Shi looked at the messy ground and a look of delight on his face. It's so awesome that I can get stronger just by sunbathing. He walked to the window, feeling the sunlight streaming down his body, a comfort that seemed to come from the depths of his soul. The sunlight seemed to grant him everything. Little Bai, uncle is here to pick you up. Just as Shiraishi was enjoying the comfort brought to him by the sunlight. The sound of a car braking could be heard outside, along with the voice of Nobita's father, Nobita's son, Nobisuke. Uncle, I'm coming right away. Shiraishi shouted. Looking at the mess on the ground, I suddenly felt a headache coming on. I should have known better than to try it. But all they could do was pack these things together and toss them out the window into the yard. This house was left to Shiraishi by his parents in this life. It is said that it has been sold, and the money from the sale is temporarily kept by Nobisuke to be used as funds for raising Shiraishi. The next person to come will clean it up. Shiraishi glanced at his clothes, which could only be described as the most traditional attire for this time of year, and couldn't help but shake his head. From his 21st century perspective, this kind of clothing is incredibly outdated. Luckily, she's cute, so she looks cute in anything she wears. Shiraishi was already quite good looking. After acquiring the superhuman physique, her skin became even whiter and smoother, seemingly without the slightest flaw, making her even cuter. I'll buy clothes later. Shiraishi carried a large suitcase of luggage and walked out. Inside were most of his clothes and some personal items, including bed sheets. A green sedan was parked at the entrance. A chubby middle-aged man stood next to the green sedan. He seemed to be fiddling with something, calling out as he worked, "Ziobai, uncle has something to do, I'll be done in a minute, please wait a moment." This weather. Uncle, I'm out now. At this moment, Nobita noticed that Shiraishi was already standing next to him. He was startled when he saw the huge suitcase on Shiraishi's shoulder. Shiraishi, why didn't you wait for your uncle? As he spoke, he quickly reached out to take the suitcase that Bai Shi was carrying, which was almost the size of his entire body. However, the moment he received it, Nobisuke realized he had been too hasty. It's so heavy. It's full of stuff. Caught off guard, the suitcase was slammed to the ground with a thud. Nobita wiped the sweat from his face with a cloth, somewhat embarrassed. Shiro, why did you bring so much stuff? Uncle has already prepared everything for you at home. It's all right, Uncle, we've already brought them. With that, Shiraishi picked up the luggage from the ground again and walked towards the trunk. Nobita's eyes twitched violently. Xiao Bai is so strong. He quickly scrambled to the trunk, opened the door, and helped Bai Shi put the suitcase inside. Shiraishi had anticipated Nobisuk's reaction when he saw Nobisuk trying to take his luggage. His suitcases weren't actually that heavy. It is something that a properly trained adult could pick up. But Nobisuk is clearly not the kind of middle-aged man who has exercised, you can tell just by looking at his belly. If caught off guard, you might not be able to pick it up. Get in the car, Xiaobai. Seated in the driver's seat and the back seat respectively, they set sail as the car hummed under its own weight. Xiaobai, you're really strong. Uncle almost couldn't lift that luggage just now. What do you mean almost didn't pick it up? You mean you didn't pick it up at all? Shiraishi didn't want to expose Nobisuk's lie, so he just chimed in, I'm naturally strong. My parents say I'm super strong. Oh, I see. Xiaobai, you haven't seen Daksheng in a long time, have you? It's been a long time since you two last met, but that's okay, brothers are brothers, you'll be familiar with each other again soon. Nobita didn't suspect Shiraishi was lying and changed the subject. Shiraishi was, of course, extremely familiar with Nobita Nobi. It could even be said that he is more familiar with Nobita than Nobita's brother, Nobita's sister, Tamako. But I definitely can't say that out loud. Although if you say it out loud, it will only be taken as a child's unintentional remark. In this world, Shiraishi is only a few months older than Nobita, and the two had met a few times when they were children. However, because Shiraishi's parents and Nobita's family live too far apart, they may only get together once every 2 or 3 years. The last time was 3 years ago. 3 years ago, Nobita was only a few years old, he probably forgot by now. Nobita kept talking the whole way. They were all introducing Shiraishi to the family, trying to help him integrate into the family as quickly as possible. Besides Auntie and Nobita, we also have a robot at home named Doraemon. Shiraishi was of course aware of these things, but he would always respond with a smile to Nobisuk. An afternoon has passed, and they have only traveled about 2/3 of the distance. Nobita randomly picked a convenience store on the road, and after quickly eating something with Shiraishi, he set off on his journey again. Finally, around 8 o'clock, the green sedan stopped in front of a house in Baishi that was both familiar and unfamiliar. Little Bai, come in, your aunt and little brother have been waiting for you for a long time. Shiraishi stared blankly at the house until Nobita called him, at which point he came to his senses and went inside with Nobita. I'm a little nervous. Chapter 3. Snap. 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 The house seemed to have been prepared. As soon as the door opened, fireworks exploded with a bang, and Nobita clapped his hands with a broad smile. Welcome Nobita Shiraishi to our family. White stones swept across the surface. 4 people were standing in front of me. Nobita, 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 and the round and chubby Doraemon. Come on, Xiaobai, let me reintroduce you. Nobita extended his hand and said, this is my wife, your aunt. Hello, Auntie. Shiraishi bowed very politely, saying, please take care of me in the future. It's all right, it's all right. Shiro is so polite. I wish Nobita was like that too. Shiraishi's appearance is a huge plus for middle-aged people like them at this age. Nobi Tamako cupped her face in her left hand, waved her right hand, and said with a smile. Nobita could only give an awkward laugh. It's common knowledge that he's stupid. This is your younger brother, Nobita Nobi. Hello, Nobita Nobi. Looking at Nobita in front of him, Shiraishi felt a surge of emotion and extended his hand with a smile. Nobita bowed awkwardly, his head bowed, and he kept turning around on the ground. Then he scratched his head, reached out and shook hands with Shiraishi, saying sheepishly, "Welcome, cousin Shiraishi." "Ha ha ha, great! From now on, you two will be the closest of brothers, so you must get along well." Nobita and Nobita clapped their hands happily. "What about me? What about me?" Beside him, Doraemon, with two blushes on his cheeks, looked a little shy but also very eager to try, and jumped a few times. Oh, and Doraemon too. Nobita seemed to want to convey his meaning, so he squatted down and hugged Doraemon's big head. "This is the robot I told you about. Don't underestimate him just because he's a robot. He's a very, very, very important member of our family, just like a real family member." Doraemon, who was just eager to try, became shy and started poking his little hands after being told that, saying in a weak voice, "Hello, Nobita's older brother." "Hello, Doraemon." Shiraishi walked up to Doraemon, reached out and shook Doraemon's ball-shaped hand. Doraemon chuckled. "All right, come on, you must be starving. I've prepared a huge feast for you tonight." Nobi Tamako greeted Shiraishi warmly. "Yay! Delicious food." Nobita and Doraemon are still children at heart, and they can't resist the temptation of delicious food. They immediately ran towards the restaurant. But the two clumsy fellows collided and instantly fell to the ground, seeing stars. "Nobita! Doraemon!" Upon seeing this, Nobita put his hands on his hips and said angrily, "What are you doing? Go wash up." He glanced at Shiraishi discreetly. Upon realizing that Shiraishi was merely suppressing a laugh, he couldn't help but chuckle and immediately breathed a sigh of relief. They were terrified that Shiraishi would have a bad impression of them, otherwise the house would be in complete chaos. "Yes. I heard my father's angry voice." Nobita and Doraemon immediately stood up, standing at attention like soldiers, and headed towards the bathroom. "All right, Ziobai, you should go wash up too." Nobita's conversation with Shiraishi was particularly gentle. Shiraishi nodded and went to the bathroom door with Nobisuke. As soon as they got to the bathroom, they heard Nobita and Doraemon whispering to each other. "Nobita, Dad's acting really strange today." "Doraemon, is that strange?" "Nobita, of course, my dad isn't this manly at all normally." "Doraemon, that's true. You're usually kept very strict by your mom, aren't you?" "Nobita, Mom was so much gentler today." Upon hearing this, not only Nobita's brother, Nobi's sister, couldn't hold back, but even Nobita's daughter, Tamako, was about to break down. The two parents, their faces flushed and filled with anger, went into the bathroom together. "Nobita! Doraemon! I'm going to show you what a manly side your father can be." After a chaotic scene, Nobita and Tamako Nobi had just come out of the bathroom. Nobita was still trying to comfort the extremely angry Tamako. "Okay, honey, don't be angry, try to understand." Shiraishi walked in and immediately saw two people, who were truly seeing stars, leaning against the sink. Puff! Shiraishi had been holding back his laughter, but he couldn't hold it in any longer and burst into laughter. Hearing Shiraishi's laughter, Nobita and Doraemon snapped out of their daze, coughing awkwardly as they complained, "Cousin, let me tell you, my mom and dad are acting completely differently today, but they won't let us say anything." Doraemon suddenly sensed something was wrong and immediately grabbed Nobita's hand. Nobita, stop talking now." "What? Doraemon, you won't allow me to?" Nobita's voice suddenly stopped, and he looked behind Shiraishi with fear on his face. Shiraishi turned to look, and saw that it was Nobisuke checking on Shiraishi to see how his washing up was going. Nobita was initially a little angry when he heard Nobita talking badly about them again, but when he saw Shiraishi turn around and look at him, his expression immediately returned to a gentle smile. He said, "Shiraishi, hurry up and wash up, or the food will get cold." Chapter 4. Okay, I understand. Shiraishi nodded. Nobita and Doraemon breathed a sigh of relief after Nobita left. "Nobita, you're going too far. Even Dad is saying something." Doraemon let out a slow sigh, then couldn't help but complain. "What? Doraemon, you just said that too." Nobita Nobi said angrily. "Really? How could I forget?" Doraemon whistled, his eyes darting around. "That wretched Doraemon." Nobita angrily grabbed Doraemon's head and kept rubbing and scratching it. Doraemon, eyes wide, burst into laughter, rolling around with Nobita. "I was wrong, Nobita, I was wrong, ah. I was really wrong, Nobita." All right, Nobita, Doraemon, stop fooling around. If you keep this up, your uncle might really come in and show you what it means to be a man." Shiraishi timely pressed down on Nobita and Doraemon's heads, preventing them from bumping into each other no matter how hard they tried. "Cousin, you're so strong." Nobita scratched his head, the spot where Shiraishi had pressed down was a little red. It wasn't that Shiraishi used too much force, it was mainly that while Nobita was holding Shiraishi down, he was still trying to move forward and beat up Doraemon. "Humph, it's all your own doing." Doraemon crossed his arms and said with dissatisfaction. "Hurry up and wash up so we can go eat. I'm starving." Bai Shi, fearing that the two little devils would start fighting again, quickly said. Okay. Although Nobita and Doraemon are mischievous, they are quite rational when it comes to these kinds of things. After washing up, when I arrived at the restaurant, Nobita Mako's food had already been served. Bai Shi took his seat at everyone's invitation, and the meal was enjoyed by both host and guests. The conversation also helped to reduce the invisible barrier between Bai Shi and the family. Da. Nobita's daughter, Tamako, led the group to Shiraishi's room. "Shiraishi, this is where you'll be living from now on. It might feel a little cramped, but please treat this place like your own home." "What? I wouldn't feel wronged." Nobita couldn't help but complain, "Isn't this clearly saying that my room is trash?" However, Nobita only needed one look from Tamako Nobi to make him tremble and lower his head. Doraemon couldn't help but chuckle. "All right, Shiro, you can stay here and get along well with Nobita." Before leaving, Nobita warned Nobita, "Nobita, don't mess around and corrupt Shiro." Bang! As the door closed, Dasyang, who had been tense all along, suddenly slumped to the ground and couldn't help but complain, What? What do you mean I'll corrupt my cousin Xiao Bai? That's hilarious. Mom is only doing this for your own good." Doraemon patted Nobita on the shoulder, then looked at Shiraishi curiously and asked, "Cousin, will you be going to the same school as Nobita?" "Of course." Shiraishi sat on the tatami mat and said, "Even with Doraemon, I can't go that far to school." "That's true." Doraemon scratched his head. "Hey, cousin, how are your grades at school?" Suddenly, Nobita seemed to take an interest, and curiously sat up cross-legged, placing his hands on his feet, looking on with anticipation. "The results are just so-so." Shiraishi waved his hand modestly. "How much is average?" Nobita's eyes sparkled, he was eager to know Shiraishi's grades. Doraemon, standing nearby, couldn't help but cover his forehead with his hand, looking quite helpless. No one else knows what Nobita is thinking. Doesn't Doraemon know this? If Shiraishi says it's good, Nobita definitely won't ask any more questions. But Shiraishi said it was just so-so, which made Nobita very curious. This reflects a child's competitive spirit and a sense of wishful thinking. Nobita believes that if another child in the family has poor grades, his mother will be too embarrassed to force him to write anymore. That's how kids are, they never think that they'll actually be forced to write together. And what if my cousin's grades are worse than mine? Wouldn't that mean I could teach my cousin? Cousin, it's okay, don't be ashamed. My grades are also very bad, I'm at the bottom of the class. Nobita's eyes lit up as if they were sparkling with stars when he thought of this. In order to force Shiraishi to reveal his achievements, he even told her about his own. He only got full marks in 2 subjects. Shiraishi couldn't help but chuckle. Young man, if that's how you are, then I have no choice but to say it out loud. Ah! Nobita couldn't help but open his mouth wide. In that instant, his eyes lost their light and he became completely dazed. You should know that elementary schools in Japan only have 2 subjects for exams, Japanese language and mathematics. He originally thought his cousin's grades were just average. Puff! Doraemon tried to suppress his laughter, but couldn't help burst out laughing. Once he did, he couldn't hold it in any longer and started rolling around on the ground, laughing hysterically. Big hero! You, ha 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 ha, you're simply humiliating yourself. Chapter 5. Doraemon. Nobita's face suddenly turned red, and he screamed in utter shame. He dared not and could not vent his anger on Shiraishi, so he could only pounce on Doraemon again. Nobita! I was wrong. The 2 of them rolled around in a ball on the ground for a while before collapsing, panting heavily. Huff, huff, huff. Nobita, panting heavily, complained, Cousin, you call this average? You're clearly a super genius. You're just like Dekisuji in our class. Yes, cousin. Doraemon nodded in agreement and said, that's good. It's really a good thing to have a good older cousin who's good at studying to keep an eye on Nobita. Cousin, you'd better keep an eye on Nobita from now on. No problem. After all, I am Nobita's cousin, and I have an inescapable duty in this regard. Shiraishi crossed his arms and nodded solemnly. Damn it! Nobita felt a sudden darkness before his eyes, and the future seemed bleak and hopeless. My mom is already very strict. Now we have another cousin. What should I do? However, children's tempers come and go quickly, and Nobita soon started asking about Shiraishi's hometown. In reality, Shiraishi's hometown is just like this, nothing different from here, just an ordinary small town. To make the story more interesting, Baishi incorporated many ancient allusions that he made up himself. Nobita and Doraemon became completely engrossed in listening. It wasn't until Nobitamako called for her to go to sleep that the blanket was taken out and spread on the floor. Just like Nobita said. The blankets were all prepared carefully and were all brand new. Shiraishi didn't need to bring any luggage at all. Cousin, you have to keep telling us these stories tomorrow. Doraemon turned off the lights and went to sleep, closing the door to his wardrobe. Before going to sleep, Nobita mumbled something in a daze. A smile appeared on Shiraishi's face. He hummed softly and then fell into a deep sleep. This was the deepest and safest night's sleep he had had since entering the workforce. He knew that in the future, there would be many more nights like this. The next morning, Shiraishi looked helplessly at Nobita, who was still lying in bed and couldn't get up, and then glanced helplessly at Doraemon. Doraemon could only shrug and say, I can't do anything about it. Let's go down first, Doraemon. Okay, cousin Ziobai. After Shiraishi and Doraemon finished washing up and came to the kitchen, Nobita still hadn't gotten up. Nobitamako is heating milk, frying eggs, and making bread. Upon seeing the 2, he immediately laughed and said, as expected of Ziobai, you don't even need to be called, unlike Dakshung. By the way, where's Dakshung? Dasyong, he's still sleeping. I can't wake him up no matter what I do. Shiraishi and Doraemon sat at the dining table. Doraemon picked up a piece of bread and started eating it, while Shiraishi helplessly answered Nobita's question. That guy, Nobita. Normally, it's fine. Nobitamako was already used to it. But what about now? Without comparison, there is no harm done. Enraged, Nobitamako stormed upstairs. Shiraishi and Doraemon exchanged a glance, and could only pray for Nobita in their hearts. Mom! I'll get up right away. I thought that as long as I had a premonition, it would be fine. But when they heard that sound, Shiraishi and Doraemon couldn't help but laugh out loud. Poor Nobita, I know how terrifying Aunt Tamako can be when she's angry, having watched the anime. I told you to get up a long time ago, but I can't help you if you don't seize the opportunity. As Nobita's screams rang out, a new day began for the Nobita family. Dasyong, after breakfast, take your little white cousin to get to know the neighborhood and introduce him to some new friends. He's family now, just like you. No problem. I just arranged to meet Shizuka and the others at the open space today, cousin, you can come with me. He went out with Shiraishi and Doraemon. Walking ahead, Nobita Nobi was incredibly proud and arrogant. I'd never seen him so smug before. Cousin, I know a lot of friends around here, even the ringleader is my friend. I'll introduce you to them today, so you won't get bullied in the future. If you do get bullied, just come to me. Nobita patted his chest and made a boastful promise to Shiraishi. Doraemon remained completely unfazed, even feeling a slight urge to laugh. He had long since seen through Nobita's personality. Shiraishi almost burst out laughing. Who's the ringleader of the kids around here? It's Jian. Your friend is indeed your friend, but are you sure you're not the one being bullied? Alright, we're here. Nobita Nobi spread his arms wide and said excitedly, Cousin, look, this is the open space where we usually play together. His exaggerated performance. It immediately attracted the attention of several children in the open space, who couldn't help but turn their gaze over. Shiraishi happened to be looking in that direction when their eyes met. Tall and strong fat tiger. The skinny little Fukuo. And Shizuka, petite but a beauty in the making. Chapter 6. Nobita, who is this? In front of strangers, Jian wouldn't act so strangely, or rather, Jian is usually quite normal. He came over and put his arm around Nobita's shoulder, asking curiously. He's my cousin. Nobita seemed very uncomfortable with Jian's behavior, and his discomfort was evident on his face. No wonder he got beaten up. His attempt to be friendly and affectionate was met with such disdain. Many normal people would find it unbearable, let alone Jian. Let me introduce you all. His name is Nobi Shiraishi, and he'll be living at my house from now on. Cousin, this is Jian, this is Sunio, and this is Shizuka. We are friends and classmates. Ignoring Nobita's reaction, Jian ran over to Shiraishi, hooked his arm around Shiraishi's shoulder, and laughed heartily, so you're Nobita's cousin. From now on, you're my cousin, Jian's cousin Shiraishi. If anyone in this area dares to bully you, just tell me. I'll beat them to a pulp. Knowing Jian's personality, Shiraishi wasn't too bothered. Instead, he smiled and said, Okay, I'll have to trouble you to look after me from now on, thank you. It's okay. Fat Tiger scratched his head and then burst into laughter, seemingly enjoying the feeling of being thanked. Shizuka, who was standing next to him, also greeted Shiraishi. Compared to Jian and Sunio, Shizuka seems to be able to feel Shiraishi's charm more. He's so handsome at such a young age, and just one look at him makes people blush and their hearts race. Only Sunio seemed to have a bad impression of Shiraishi, constantly looking at him with a scrutinizing gaze. Everyone sat down by the building pipes in the open space. Because Shiraishi was a new member, everyone's conversation revolved around him. For example, they might ask how old you are, where you're from, what you like, and what your hobbies are. Fat Tiger acted perfectly normal in front of the new friends, even giving off the air of a senior figure in the group. Because it involved his cousin, Nobita was also very active. Although Shizuka is a lady, she will occasionally chime in and has a strong presence. Not to mention Doraemon. Only Sunio, carrying a backpack, remained silent throughout. Well, not exactly silent, but he did say a few words, trying to shift the topic away from Shiraishi, but no one paid him any attention. You all. Ziofa clenched his fists, watching them chatting so enthusiastically. He felt increasingly aggrieved, and finally couldn't help but shout, "You guys are going too far." Then, to everyone's bewilderment, she ran away crying. "What's wrong with Ziofu?" Shizuka asked, puzzled. "I don't know what's wrong with this kid all of a sudden." Fat Tiger scratched his head, his mind filled with doubt. That guy, Ziofu, must feel that his cousin has stolen his thunder, so he's unhappy about it. Nobita snorted dismissively. It has to be said that his intuition is sometimes quite accurate. Sunio had already returned home, took out his new remote control car from his backpack, and started crying. Ziofu had prepared this brand new remote-controlled car, ready to show off, but unexpectedly, his limelight was stolen. While everyone was talking about Shiraishi, Sunio kept talking from the side, trying to get everyone's attention to be focused on him. But nothing worked. Then, she cried because she felt wronged. Children are children after all. Xiaofu doesn't even think about it. Everyone was chatting with Shiraishi. You're the only one implying that a certain new remote-controlled car has just been released for sale. They didn't ignore you, they're already being very kind by giving you a perfunctory response. It's all that Shiraishi's fault. No. It's all Nobita's fault. He had to bring a cousin here to oppose me. That's right, it's all Nobita's fault. It's all Nobita's fault. Nobita? Xiaofu, do you want to hear what you're saying? Right now. The others on the other side also deduced from the clues they had just gathered that Ziofu had run away in frustration. Fat Tiger said speechlessly, that Sunio is really too stingy. A remote control car is nothing compared to a new friend, don't you think, cousin Shiraishi? Shiraishi nodded in agreement. How could a remote-controlled car compare to the friendship forged in elementary school? Of course, he also knew that Sunio actually valued friendship more, but he just didn't show it so obviously. We're all elementary school students, who could possibly notice? We just thought he was vain. Ziofu is going too far, he's not giving Beishi any face at all. Even Shizuka, a lady who usually doesn't like to lose her temper, got a little angry. Not to mention Nobita and Doraemon, who were already furious. It's just a broken remote-controlled car. How can it compare to Little White Cousin? It's hilarious. Nobita huffed, then looked at Doraemon. Doraemon, you can definitely pull out something more fun and cooler than that remote control car anytime, right? Of course. Under everyone's gaze, Doraemon coughed lightly, then proudly reached into his four-dimensional magic pocket. Chapter 7. Of course. Doraemon rummaged through his four-dimensional magic pocket and pulled out a huge gadget, slamming it down on the ground with a thud, saying, "Ta-da! A remote-controlled simulation car. Wow! What's this?" Doraemon. Jian and Nobita's eyes lit up instantly, and they lingered near the remote-controlled simulator. The composition of this instrument is quite simple. The front half is covered by a huge screen, while the middle part is shaped like a car. When Shiraishi saw this prop, he couldn't help but think to himself, isn't this one of those racing simulators from the arcade in my past life? He looked at it a few more times and became even more certain. That should be right. Ta-da! There's also a remote-controlled car. Doraemon took out a remote-controlled car from his magic pocket and placed it on the ground, explaining as he did so, this is a remote-controlled simulation car. As long as you sit on it, you can control the car's movements. Let me show you. With that, Doraemon sat in the remote-controlled simulator car and started the engine. Buzz. The air blasts from that remote-controlled car looked so realistic, it didn't feel like a remote-controlled car at all. The real vibrations even reached the prop vehicle. Doraemon stepped on the gas and started racing in the open space. Woo! Woo-hoo! With each drift, most of the vibrations and changes during the drift are transmitted to Doraemon through the prop car he's sitting on. After demonstrating for a while, Doraemon finished with a cool drift, jumped off the prop car, patted it, and said with a proud smile, "How was that, cousin Shiraishi?" "Cool." Shiraishi was very respectful to Doraemon, he was even itching to try his hand at it. Not to mention Jian and Nobita. Even Shizuka was somewhat eager to try. Just kidding, isn't this way cooler than any remote-controlled car? The real sensory experience. It's just like driving a real car. I'll go first. I'll go first. He ignored Fat Tiger's murderous glare. Nobita Nobi jumped onto the car seat and started speeding like crazy. This experience, which felt just like driving a real car, drove him wild with excitement, and he kept letting out strange, whistling noises. Doraemon stood to the side, watching Nobita with a maternal smile. Wah-ah-ah-ah. Nobita played for a while before Jian pulled him down. "My turn, Nobita. Ha 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 ha. Watch my super drift. Speeding. Whoosh." Under Jian's control, the remote-controlled car travels through bushes and puddles, making it look like it's traversing a jungle, with occasional glimpses of giant insects. The stimulating sensation of being pushed back made Fat Tiger roar with excitement. Shiraishi was really itching to try it himself. Although it looks similar to driving, the actual experience is obviously many times more fun than driving. First of all, there's no need to worry about crashing. Driving a tiny remote-controlled car is like being in a miniature world. The combination of adventure and racing is incredibly fun. I kind of want to play. Perhaps because his body has shrunk, Shiraishi's childlike innocence, which he had long lost, has gradually returned. However, since Jian had just sat down, Shiraishi couldn't very well pull him off. However, Shiraishi seems to have overestimated Jian's usual strength. Shizuka looked on with longing. Nobita and Doraemon sat to the side watching Jian. Time passed slowly. Everyone went from being excited and eager to continue playing to sitting listlessly on the pipes. "It's my turn now." Shiraishi slowly stood up from the pipe, preparing to walk to Jian's side. "Cousin. Wait. He's Fat Tiger." Nobita's pupils suddenly contracted, and he hurriedly tried to grab Shiraishi. Even Doraemon tried to persuade Shiraishi, "Shiraishi-san, it's okay, we can play with him when we get home." "No." Shiraishi shook his head decisively, "As friends, no one can directly take away a toy's playtime, not even Jian, and Shizuka is waiting right next to us." While he watched helplessly as Jian continued to play this game. "I knew this guy was going to act up again. They just like to take over everything they like." Shizuka looked at Shiraishi with emotion. She didn't actually like the feeling of racing that much, but even she wanted to experience such a toy. But who knew that once Fat Tiger sat there, it would be noon. "I'm a little disappointed. I originally wanted Nobita, Doraemon, and Jian to say it. But judging from the looks of it, there's no way they'd say it." Upon hearing that Shiraishi had stood up for her, Shizuka was immediately moved. "But this is Jian." Nobita Nobi wanted to say anything more. But Doraemon understood what Shiraishi meant. He even stopped Nobita with his little hand, looking at Shiraishi with a resolute expression, like a hero going forth to his death. "Yes. Cousin Shiraishi, you're right. I understand what you mean. This situation really can't happen. Go ahead, I, Doraemon, support you." "Hey! Doraemon! Chapter 8. Nobita was stunned. How could Doraemon be fooling around with his cousin? That's Jian. But Doraemon's gaze remained steadfast as he looked at Shiraishi. It's been decided, if Jian dares to make a move, he will definitely step in to help Shiraishi. Shiraishi nodded, then said with a smile, it might not necessarily happen the way you're thinking. With that, Shiraishi walked directly to Jian's side, looked at him, and said calmly, Jian, it's my turn. Also, you've been playing for a long time this round, so don't play next round. Wait for the third round. Hey? What are you doing, Shiraishi? Disturbed by Shiraishi, Jian's remote-controlled car crashed into the wall in front of him with a bang. The realistic feeling made Jian's head buzz. He turned his head and glared fiercely at Shiraishi. Jian, do you know how annoying your behavior is? Shiraishi didn't care about Jian's gaze. After all, he was an adult in his previous life and wouldn't be frightened by a child. Hey! What are you saying? Fat Tiger grabbed Shiraishi's left arm with his right hand, seemingly about to attack. Doraemon in the back has already put his hand into the four-dimensional magic pocket. As for Nobita, although he's a coward, he's already prepared to rush up and fight Jian. Although he said he was scared, Nobita actually sided with Shiraishi and thought Shiraishi was right. Besides, he's my cousin. How could I let my cousin be bullied by Fat Tiger on his very first day here? Nobita's eyes gradually hardened as he grabbed Doraemon's hand, ready to charge at any moment. Shizuka crossed her arms and looked at Shiraishi with great concern, wanting to tell him to let it go and that she could play later. Shiraishi. Cousin. Shiroshi noticed their commotion and was very pleased. At least there wasn't a situation where I'm standing up for you, and you don't dare to utter a word. It's okay, you don't need to come up. I want to reason with Fat Tiger. Shiraishi first extended his right hand to stop them from making their move, and then gently grabbed the fat hand that Jian was holding on his right arm. With a light but incredibly stable force, they forcefully pried open Fat Tiger's hand. Is he afraid of Jian? Joke. Even though Jian is a child, he is no stronger than an adult. Moreover, after a day in the sun, his strength had increased, and he could easily handle Fat Tiger like a little chick. Hey! Shiraishi! Are you provoking me? Fat Tiger watched helplessly as his hands were pried open, and he was already furious. His face turned red, and he rolled up his sleeves, wanting to beat up Shiraishi. He's been acting arrogantly in this area for a long time. He has never encountered anyone who dares to defy him. Now that one has suddenly appeared, Fat Tiger feels that his authority as the leader of the children has been offended. Provocation? No, it isn't. Shiraishi spread his hands innocently and said, I just wanted to reason with you. He took a small step forward, then patted Fat Tiger's shoulder a few times, before gently pressing down on it. A red glint flashed in his eyes. What I just said, Fat Tiger, isn't it right? Shouldn't it be my turn? Fat Tiger really wanted to say no. But he was suddenly surprised to find that he could no longer move the spot whereby she was holding him down. A chill ran up his head, and he suddenly shuddered, looking at Bai Shi with fear in his eyes. Besides, you played for a long time just now, which is equivalent to playing the second round. It's normal to wait until the third round to play. Do you think what I said makes sense, Fat Tiger? Shiraishi gently moved his head closer to Jian, meeting his gaze. The tone of voice was normal, but Jian felt that the voice was deafening. He tried to run away but couldn't, and was held tightly by Shiraishi. Yes. Yes. You're right. Fat Tiger was momentarily stunned. Shiraishi smiled and patted Jian's shoulder with satisfaction. All right, Jian, you can sit down over there. Okay. Under the incredulous gazes of his friends, Fat Tiger walked listlessly to the side of the pipe and sat down, his eyes glazed over, his clothes soaked with cold sweat. Yay! Cousin! Nobita watched this scene with great excitement and rushed over to hug Shiraishi. Cousin, you're amazing! Doraemon looked at Shiraishi with admiration. They're cousins, but he's so much better than Nobita. Shizuka nodded in agreement. Shiraishi's performance just now was exactly what she wanted. Without resorting to violence, he politely ushered Jian aside with words. What? Doraemon? Nobita said with dissatisfaction, from now on, I can reason with Jian just like my cousin. If you try to reason with Jian like I do, Jian will definitely punch you back. Shiraishi burst out laughing, and like a little adult, pushed Nobita away, feeling a bit suffocated by the boy's hug. It wasn't as calm as it seemed just now. If little fatty tiger really dares to make a move, the arm that's grabbing fatty tiger's shoulder will just give him an over-the-shoulder throw. Sometimes, you have to discipline a naughty kid. Reason? For Jian, fists are the reason. If your fists aren't strong enough, Jian will definitely show you what the iron fist of the king of kids is all about. Come on, Shizuka, you go up and experience it first. Chapter 9. Shizuka's experience was more refined compared to Jian or even Nobita. It's like a wealthy lady strolling through the streets. After she had tried it for a while, it was Shiraishi's turn. Shiraishi was so itchy to get his hands on it that he immediately started racing. The experience is completely different from driving yourself, even the scenery outside the window is different. When the first round ended and they started the second round, before the third round began, the sun was already high in the sky at noon and the sunlight was shining on the earth. It's time to go home. After saying goodbye, everyone went home to their own mothers, and Fat Tiger didn't even get to play the third round. Back home, I ate my first lunch. Nobita urged Tamako to do her homework. It's summer vacation now, and the start of school is just around the corner, but Nobita hasn't even started his homework yet. Ziobai, I'm entrusting Dakshung's homework to you. Please take a look and keep an eye on him. Nobita Tamako spoke earnestly to Shiraishi, then glared at Nobita beside her. Nobita just can't laugh. Shiraishi nodded and smiled, okay, Aunt Tamako. Thank you so much, Ziobai. What would you like to eat? Auntie will make it for you tonight. Nobi Tamako was overjoyed. She heard it from her husband. Shiraishi was smart from a young age, and his grades were almost always perfect 100s. She thought it would be hard for Nobita not to become smarter if he played with someone like that. Thank you, Auntie. I don't have any particular favorites, but I don't have any dietary restrictions either. And so, Shiraishi led Nobita and Doraemon back to their room. Ugh! I'm so tired. I'm so sleepy. As soon as he got back to his room, Nobita rolled on the floor, yawned, and was about to take a nap. Hey, Nobita, get up and do your summer homework. Doraemon sighed. He was already used to Nobita's attitude, but he still couldn't help but urge him on. Doraemon, I'll do my homework after I wake up. It looked like Nobita was really about to fall asleep. Shiraishi simply lifted Nobita up with one hand and said with a smile, Hey, Nobita, I just promised Aunt Tamako that I would teach you how to do your homework. Ah! Nobita cried out in agony, Cousin, please let me rest for a bit, I'm so tired. That won't do. Get up and do your homework. I'll teach you what you don't understand. Shiraishi doesn't give Nobita any face at all. This kid is the type who will take an inch and then a mile. If he really goes to sleep, he'll definitely find another excuse when he wakes up. Ah! Nobita Nobi sat down at the desk, whimpering. Well done, Cousin Ziobai. Doraemon winked quietly and gave Shiraishi a thumbs up. Of course. Shiraishi responded with a wink and a thumbs up. Cousin, how do you do this problem? Before Shiraishi could even catch his breath, Nobita was already completely confused. Shiraishi looked at it and almost fainted. Damn it, it was the first question. Nobita really is an ignorant fool. Come on, I'll teach you. The question is like this. It's just the simplest addition and subtraction. Shiraishi believed he could still teach Nobita. However, he seemed to have overestimated himself. He talked about one question for a full half hour, until his mouth was numb, but Dasyang still only half understood. Suddenly. Oh. I see. Then the answer to this question should be. Nobita filled in the answer, and Shiraishi glanced at it, then breathed a long sigh of relief. Whether you were confused or actually understood it, at least you got it right. Shiraishi looked at Doraemon with teary eyes, finally understanding how Nobita's family and Mr. Nobita felt. In his past life, he thought that even if Nobita was stupid, how stupid could he be? Result. Doraemon. Cousins Iobai. Doraemon. Cousins Iobai. Doraemon, with tears in his eyes, gazed deeply into Shiraishi's eyes. He felt his scalp tingle the whole time he watched it. It's not just because I pity Shiraishi. I also pity my past self. Nobita finally got the first question right. Shiraishi hugged Doraemon, showing they were in the same boat. Only Nobita is unaware of what has happened that has made Shiraishi and Doraemon so fond of each other. Ding! Host has received a skill tutorial. Host, Shiraishi. Physical Constitution, Little Superman. Skill, Beginner Teaching, 1/100. Prize Draw Chances, 0. The skill is here. Shiraishi's grip on Doraemon tightened suddenly, and his eyes lit up. Just as the system said, as long as I do a certain thing, I can acquire a certain skill. MMM. Doraemon, breathless from the hug, his face flushed, patted Shiraishi's hand, little cousin Shiraishi. Ah. Sorry, Doraemon. Shiraishi quickly let go of his hand. It's okay, it's okay. Doraemon took a few deep breaths. I didn't realize you were so strong, cousin Iobai. Born with superhuman strength, just born with superhuman strength. Shiraishi waved his hand modestly, then turned his gaze to Nobita. At this moment, in his eyes, Nobita is a treasure trove of experience, waiting for him to explore. Nobita had no idea what Shiraishi was thinking, but he trembled slightly, something felt off. Chapter 10. Over the next 2 hours. Shiraishi has been teaching Nobita all along. Ding! Used the teaching skill, Proficiency +1. 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 After acquiring teaching skills. Even with only basic teaching skills, Shiraishi's teaching ability is comparable to that of an average teacher. This is better than before. After all, although Shiraishi had a knack for solving 4th grade math problems, his teaching methods weren't exactly smooth. Now, teaching Nobita is even smoother. Shiraishi completely treated Nobita as a training tool, and felt very happy watching his proficiency level keep increasing. As a result, Nobita complained bitterly. However, Shiraishi acquired teaching skills and now had the demeanor of a seasoned teacher. Whenever he saw Nobita slacking off, he would immediately take control of him. This made Dasyang only dare to complain, but not actually desert his post. Doraemon sat to one side with his arms crossed, nodding with great satisfaction. My cousin truly lives up to his reputation. Seeing Nobita working so hard, I'm so touched, sob sob sob. Just then, footsteps sounded. It was Nobitamako who brought up the snacks. Today's snacks are 6 dorayaki, 2 for each person, plus 3 glasses of juice. Big. Nobitamako opened the door and was about to call for help, but Doraemon raised his finger and shushed her. Mom, Nobita is working hard. Doraemon tiptoed to the door, picked up the tray of snacks, and said, "Keep your voice down, don't disturb Nobita and cousin Shiraishi." "Okay." Nobita's daughter, Tamako, was stunned for a moment when she saw this, then nodded excitedly in a low voice, "Doraemon, remember to call them for snacks after they're done, especially Shiro." "Okay. I understand." Doraemon nodded vigorously, "Leave it to me, Mom. Then I won't bother you any longer." Nobita-mako's footsteps as she went downstairs were much lighter, showing that she was genuinely happy. Having Shiraishi watching over Nobita in the house was simply wonderful for her. "My husband made the absolutely right decision to let Ziobai stay with us." Doraemon was also very happy about Shiraishi's arrival. With a happy smile, his eyes narrowed as he looked at Nobita, who was making unprecedented efforts, and picked up a dorayaki to eat, feeling moved as he ate. Just as Shiraishi was using Nobita as an experience booster, constantly grinding for experience points. Jian then found Sunio and met up with him at Sunio's house. This morning, Jian was indeed a little scared by Shiraishi. But after realizing what had happened, Fat Tiger immediately turned red with anger. The fact that he was so obedient to Nobita, Doraemon, and Shizuka was a disgrace to him. That actually scared me. How shameful! How can I be a leader of children in the future? That Shiraishi is absolutely despicable. Fat Tiger said fiercely, brandishing his fists, "I'm going to find a chance to beat him up." "Fat Tiger, it seems we think the same thing." Sunio chuckled slyly, then said with great dissatisfaction, "However, besides Shiraishi, that Nobita is also extremely despicable. Relying on his cousin, he dares to be so arrogant." "That's right." Fat Tiger nodded solemnly and said, "That Nobita guy just sided with his cousin against me. He clearly doesn't respect me. He has to be taught a lesson. Let's not delay, Jian. Let's go ask Shiraishi and Nobita to meet up. Let's not ask Doraemon to meet up." Sunio, looking like a cunning strategist, stroked his chin and grinned mischievously, "That stinky robot Doraemon has too many weird gadgets. If we call him over, who knows what he might pull out." "You're right. Doraemon has too many strange gadgets. We absolutely can't let him know about them." Jian nodded in agreement, mainly because he usually didn't use his brain and just went along with whatever Sunio said. "Wait for me, Jian. I need to think of a way to lure Shiraishi and Nobita out." "It's okay, you have plenty of snacks at home anyway, I'll have a few more." Sunio watched as Jian devoured his food, an ellipsis appearing on his forehead as he speechlessly covered it. "Fine, fine, let Fat Tiger eat it if he wants." On the other side. At this moment, it is already 2:30 p.m. Since finishing lunch at 11:45. Shiraishi and Nobita remain seated at the desk. Ding! Used the teaching skill, proficiency +1. Ding! Used the teaching skill, proficiency +1. Ding! Used the teaching skill, proficiency +1. Shiraishi became more and more enthusiastic as he taught, and Nobita gradually became a little more absorbed in it. Although it's only a small step, it still represents a qualitative improvement. "Okay, let's take a break." Shiraishi glanced at the time, it was already 2:30. He'd been studying for over 2 hours, almost 3 hours. It was time for Nobita to rest. After all, you can't let an experience-boosting baby die, right? Chapter 11. Yeah. I heard that I could finally rest. Nobita instantly perked up, spreading his arms wide and laughing heartily, "It's finally over. That was awesome. It's finally over." God knows how much he suffered during those 2 hours. Clap clap clap. Doraemon smiled like an ant and clapped his hands, saying, "Congratulations, Nobita. Congratulations, Nobita. You've broken the record for the longest study session today." "Yeah. Nobi Daiyu double-handed fork and shoulder technique." "Of course. Bai Shi pointed to the test paper on the table and said, "Look at what you've accomplished in these 2.5 hours." Nobita Nobi glanced over. Seeing the densely packed answers on that test paper, I was immediately stunned. Wow! Did I do all of this? Of course. If you didn't finish it, did you think I would have done it? Bai Shi crossed his arms and laughed. I'd give you 99 points for your performance in these 2.5 hours. I'm deducting 1 point so you won't get arrogant. Ha 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 ha. Nobita was stunned for a moment, then put his hands on his hips, a sense of accomplishment welling up inside him. I really did all of this. All right, Nobita, stop standing there, come and eat something. The word hard after Doraemon was left unsaid, and the conversation abruptly stopped. He suddenly realized that while watching Nobita do his homework and eat, he had unknowingly eaten 4 dorayaki, and now there were only 2 left. Nobita, oblivious to the seriousness of the situation, was still excitedly shouting, "Yay! Time for snacks! The sweetest treats are the ones you get after all that hard work, Nobita, you have to try them." Shiraishi nodded in agreement. Etc. Nobita suddenly noticed that only 2 dorayaki remained on the dessert tray. His gaze then fell on Doraemon, who was awkwardly scratching his head and grinning, and his face flushed crimson. "Doraemon! You ate all my dorayaki!" Screaming, Nobita lunged at Doraemon. "Doraemon! Do you know how much happiness I'll lose by following what my cousin Shiraishi said? Happiness? That's such an important thing." After making a fuss for a while, De Xiang realized that since he had already eaten, there was no point in making a fuss now, so he could only squat to the side and sulk. Doraemon knew he was in the wrong and didn't know what to say from beginning to end. "I'm sorry, Nobita. I was wrong. I ate it by accident just now. It really was an accident." Nobita ignored Doraemon, picked up the snack tray and handed it to Shiraishi, saying, "Cousin Shiraishi, you can have these 2 dorayaki." "So good." Shiraishi watched it from beginning to end and questioned it. "Of course." Nobita nodded without hesitation and said, "Although I wrote all these questions myself, I know that you put in just as much effort as I did, maybe even more. So, you can have this snack." As he spoke, Nobita handed over a little more of the snack tray, then suddenly closed his eyes and turned his head away. "This kid!" Shiraishi looked at the dorayaki in front of him, feeling both amused and exasperated. "However, my opinion of Nobita has changed somewhat. At least he seems timid, but he is actually quite clear about many things in his heart." Seeing this, Doraemon felt even more guilty. "Nobita, cousin Shiraishi, wait a minute." Doraemon's short arms rummaged through his 4-dimensional magic pocket and finally pulled out a bottle of potion. "Ta-da! Double the potion!" Etc. Looking at the doubled potion, Shiroshi suddenly had a bad feeling. "Doraemon, what is this?" Nobita's anger came quickly and went quickly. "After all, this is Doraemon. Hehe, I accidentally ate your dorayaki just now, I'm so sorry." Doraemon first scratched his head and apologized, then continued, "I suddenly remembered this gadget. If you drip a drop of the potion on a dorayaki, after 5 minutes, the dorayaki will turn into 2, and after another 5 minutes, the 2 will turn into 4. Very good." Nobita's eyes suddenly lit up. "Hurry up and put the 4 drip on." "Stop!" Shiraishi quickly called for a halt. Goodness, it was exactly what I expected. Double the dose of medicine, also known as double the solution. It is the most inconspicuous, yet most dangerous, item in Doraemon. Apply the multiplier to any item, and it will double in size after 5 minutes. It won't disappear unless you eat it. 5 minutes later, it went from 1 to 2. 5 minutes later, the number increased from 2 to 4. 5 minutes later, the number increased from 4 to 8. Does that sound like very little? But as time goes by, the number will increase from 8 to 16, from 16 to 32, from 32 to 64, from 64 to 128. In my past life, many people calculated that the Earth is 510 billion square meters. If a loaf of bread is 0.01 square meters, it would only take 4 hours and 40 minutes to cover the entire Earth. Chapter 12. It will get even more outrageous later on, it could even annihilate the entire universe in less than a day. Of course, annihilating the universe is impossible, and some experts have refuted this claim. First, the bread will multiply as described above, rapidly expanding in volume to become a huge aggregate of bread, called a bread ball. When the dough expands to a certain extent, the speed at the edge of the dough approaches the speed of light. Due to relativistic effects, the mass of the edge of the dough tends towards infinity. The edge of the dough can only propagate at the speed of light, thus limiting the increase in the dough's volume. As the quality index of the dough increases, but the volume of the dough can only increase gradually, the density of the dough will become greater and greater, and the pressure and temperature at the center will also increase accordingly. When the temperature and pressure at the core ignite a thermonuclear reaction, the dough becomes a star, all the bread ceases to exist, and proliferation stops. In a later theatrical version, the chestnut bread that had been doubly infused with the potion in the original storyline had formed a nebula. Although it cannot fill a universe. However, flooding the Earth would be an easy thing to do. Shiraishi isn't ready to escape Earth yet. Who knows if this thing might be missed? If he were only given the food, he could certainly make sure he ate it all. But don't forget, there's also Nobita and Doraemon. Nobita loves to cause mischief, he might secretly slip a dorayaki into his pocket and head out the door. Hey? What's wrong, cousin Shiraishi? Nobita and Doraemon were both stunned by Shiraishi's reaction and looked at him in confusion. It's probably better not to use props. We can't rely on props for everything. Shiraishi then spoke. But Doraemon and Nobita still seemed a little hesitant, so Shiraishi simply shoved a dorayaki into Nobita's hand. Don't use the doubling potion anymore. I'll share one with you. Food tastes better when shared, right? Nobita Nobi smiled, took a bite of his dorayaki, and exclaimed happily, "Mmm. It's so delicious." Just like Shiraishi said, the sweets made after hard work are the best. With that, he sat down on the tatami mat and began to enjoy the few dorayaki dishes he had. Hey hey! Doraemon, with a relieved smile on his face, put the double potion back into his four-dimensional magic pocket. Shiraishi breathed a sigh of relief, he wasn't ready to leave Earth yet. Moreover, history is interconnected, if the Earth were to be submerged now, future centuries might not even exist, which would be even more disastrous. He also took a dorayaki and started eating it. Dorayaki is essentially a red bean paste pancake, but it must have a unique flavor to make Doraemon like it so much. At least Shiraishi's eyes lit up, he thought this thing was indeed very sweet and delicious, perfect as a snack to replenish his energy in the afternoon. On the other side, after finishing his dorayaki, Nobita gulped down his juice in a few mouthfuls, then grabbed his test paper and ran downstairs to show off his work from the past 2.5 hours to his mom. There's a saying. Returning home in wealth and honor is like wearing fine clothes at night. Although this statement isn't quite appropriate in this context, the meaning is the same. Nobita has never been this diligent in his life, so how could he not show off? Mother! Shiraishi and Doraemon exchanged a glance and chuckled. Before long, Nobita returned, skipping as he walked, his steps exceptionally light, the scroll in his hand fluttering back and forth as if it had turned into a ribbon. She was humming a little tune. Just by looking at it, you can tell the result will be good. Did Aunt Tomoko praise you? Shiraishi nudged Nobita with his elbow and asked teasingly. Hehe, you all know what I'm going to do. Nobita scratched his head sheepishly and said, yeah. Mom praised me. How does it feel to be praised by your mom? Doraemon also climbed up to Nobita's side. Very good. Nobita nodded without hesitation. Have you decided to keep working hard? Of course. Nobita nodded again and said, Mom just praised me, so I can't let her down. Doraemon and Shiraishi exchanged a glance and decided to strike while the iron was hot. Since that's the case, you've finished your snacks and rested enough, how about we continue studying? I'm sure your cousin Shiraishi would be happy to tutor you again. Shiraishi nodded and said, Of course I'm willing. After all, I'm happy to make Aunt Tomoko happy. Never mind that. I've been studying for a long time today, and I need to recharge. However, it was unexpected, yet it also seemed to be expected. Nobita collapsed onto the tatami mat, closed his eyes, and covered his face with a roll of paper. Doraemon wanted to stop him, but before he could even grab the test paper, he heard snoring. Huff, huff, huff. Doraemon's lips twitched slightly, and he exchanged a glance with Shiraishi. Both of them helplessly shrugged. Nobita Nobi, that guy. I don't have any other special talents, but I fall asleep incredibly fast. Here it is, I'll show it to you in no time. Chapter 13. Forget it, Doraemon. Nobita has already broken through his own limits today. It's the same if he continues tomorrow. Bai-Shi said softly, perfect timing, let's all take a rest. Okay. I understand, cousin Shiraishi. Doraemon nodded, then lay down on the ground, placing his hands on his chest, looking at the ceiling, feeling completely at peace. With my cousin Shiraishi around, I feel so much more relaxed. It's wonderful. Nobita will definitely get better and better under the influence of his cousin Shiraishi. Shiraishi also collapsed, his eyes slightly closed. This afternoon, it wasn't just Nobita who had a good time. The biggest gain was from Shiraishi. Ding! Host has received a skill tutorial. Host, Shiraishi. Physical Constitution, Little Superman. Skill, Beginner Teaching, 32/100. The teacher has already reached 1/3 of the proficiency level in teaching beginners. At this rate, in 3 more days, the skill White Stone will reach the intermediate level. All I can say is that Nobita's reputation as an experienced baby is well deserved. It's worth mentioning that even if Nobita doesn't actually learn it, he will gain proficiency as long as Shiraishi teaches him. This perfectly matches what Shiraishi learned yesterday after obtaining the cheat code. As long as you work hard, you can gain proficiency. Whoosh! Shiraishi stretched on the tatami mat. He was also planning to take a nap. I closed my eyes and envied Nobita's ability to fall asleep whenever he wanted, and to fall into a deep sleep. It was so enviable. Or rather, most children are like this. In his previous life, Shiraishi was an adult, and his mind was always full of things before he went to sleep, making it difficult for him to fall asleep. Fortunately, when he returned to elementary school, Shiraishi's mindset gradually improved, and he fell asleep not long after collapsing to the ground. Time passed slowly, and it was about 3:10 p.m. Shiraishi and Doraemon had already woken up. Did you sleep well, Doraemon? Bai-Shi asked. Of course it feels comfortable. Doraemon stretched and said, Nobita was very easy to deal with today, and I slept very comfortably. That's good. Bai-Shi nodded and smiled, after all, I am now a member of the family, and it is my honor to be able to do something for the family. Hehe, cousin Shiraishi, please take good care of me in the future. Doraemon sat cross-legged with a smile on his face, looking quite serious. Haha, don't worry. Shiraishi smiled and patted Doraemon's big head. Nobita. Sunio is calling you. Come down and answer it. At that moment, Nobita-mako's voice rang out from below. Shiraishi and Doraemon exchanged a glance, then forcefully woke Nobita up. What happened? Cousin Shiraishi. Doraemon. Nobita yawned, looking like he hadn't had enough sleep. To this, Shiraishi could only sigh, sleeping for such a long time isn't enough for you, are you trying to fly? In contrast, Doraemon was already used to it. Nobita falls asleep quickly, sleeps soundly, and sleeps for long periods. As long as you don't wake him, he can sleep until tomorrow. Sunio is looking for you, Nobita, hurry up and answer the phone. What does Ziofa want from me? Nobita put on his glasses, wiped away the tears from the corners of his eyes, and then went downstairs with Shiraishi and Doraemon, picking up the phone that was placed to the side. Hey, Dasyong, what are you up to? Why are you only answering the phone now? As soon as I picked up the phone, I heard Ziofa complaining, I've been waiting for you for ages. Yet, Nobita, if you slow down any further, I'm going to beat you up. At the same time, there was also a threatening voice from Jian. I was just sleeping, who knew you would suddenly contact me? Nobita couldn't help but retort, what's up, Sunio? You. Xiaofu was taken aback, but he forced himself to remain calm and said, I have something to discuss with you and cousin Bai Shi. Let's meet up at the back mountain. Why do you suddenly want to take me to the back mountain? Nobi Dai's suspicious path. Sigh, it's just a few small things. Sunio seemed a little embarrassed to speak, so Jian took the phone from him and said, Sunio is too embarrassed to say it, so I'll say it. This morning, Sunio stormed off in a huff, right? Then he realized he shouldn't have treated us like that, so he brought his remote-controlled car over, wanting to trade with you. We'll go to the back hill and let you and Shiraishi play with the latest remote-controlled car, and then we'll go to the open space and let Doraemon let Sunio play with his gadgets too. And for this reason, I want to apologize to you and my cousin Shiraishi. Oh. I see. Nobita suddenly realized. Doraemon didn't hear what it was about, but Shiraishi, with his excellent hearing, heard it clearly and immediately became suspicious. Is Sunio the kind of person who apologizes? It doesn't look like it at all. If that's the case, then there's no problem. Before Baishi could figure it out, Nobita readily and casually accepted Sunio and Jian's invitation. Oh, right, Nobita. At that moment, Sunio spoke again on the other end of the phone, no, don't tell Doraemon about this. Just you and Shiraishi-san will be fine. Why? Nobita scratched his head, still not understanding the mystery. Harmful. Chapter 14. After all, it's about an apology, so the fewer people there are, the better. Sunio sounded a little embarrassed, and Fat Tiger chimed in, yeah, it's already pretty good that Sunio apologized. It's better if there are fewer people, let's save face for Sunio. Of course, it mainly depends on you. If Nobita wants to bring Doraemon along, that's not impossible. Upon hearing this, Nobita immediately shook his head and said, all right, whatever you say. I'll take my cousin Shiraishi to the back mountain right away. After saying that, he hung up the phone. Why do you want to take cousin Shiraishi to the back mountain? Doraemon scratched his head, looking bewildered. It's nothing, it's just that Sunio and Jian suddenly invited me and my cousin Shiraishi to go play in the back mountain. Nobita didn't say much, he just pulled Shiraishi out the door. Nobita is in such a hurry. Doraemon shook his head, watched the two leave, and then went back to his room to rest. Oh no! I have a date with Xiaomi today. Follow behind Nobita. Shiraishi was thinking about what was wrong with Sunio and Jian. First of all, Sunio is too strange. He thinks he knows a lot about the characters in Doraemon, so how could he possibly apologize? It's strange that Doraemon isn't allowed to come along. Why not? Because if you want to use Doraemon's gadgets later, you still need to find Doraemon. Furthermore, the last line, suggesting that Nobita could bring Doraemon along, is still quite strange. It has a distinct tea-like quality. While it's said that having Doraemon with you is fine, hearing it makes you feel uncomfortable. Not to mention Jian, who speaks like a comedian, always in sync with Sunio. All I can say is that Sunio and Jian were acting strangely this afternoon. Never mind, it's nothing. Shiraishi suddenly felt a little foolish, having actually taken it seriously to analyze Jian and Sunio's intentions. What's there to analyze? We can just ask them directly later. What trouble can these two little brats possibly cause? Soon, Shiraishi followed Nobita to the back mountain. The back mountain that the group of friends usually refers to is a park at the foot of the mountain that can be reached without walking too far uphill. Hey? Where are Jian and Sunio? Nobita arrived at the park, completely bewildered. Jian and Sunio hadn't seen him at all. Oh no, it's here. Xiaofu suddenly appeared out of nowhere, clapping his hands, a slingshot in his left hand, and a sly smile on his face. Hee hee, you guys really came. This kid is definitely hiding something. Shiraishi figured it out. Nobita, still not realizing it, looked left and right and asked, Sunio, where's Jian? Nobita, you really are an idiot. Sunio laughed and said, do you really think I'd apologize to you and your cousin Shiraishi? I invited you to the back mountain because I was going to teach you a lesson. I told you not to bring Doraemon, and you really didn't bring Doraemon. You're such a huge idiot. Nobita, you're really stupid. Just then, Fat Tiger's voice came from the tree next to them. It turned out that Fat Tiger had climbed up a tree next to them. He held a slingshot in his left hand and a pebble bouncing around in his right. You. Even the dim-witted Nobita understood what Sunio and Jian meant, and immediately panicked, shielding Shiraishi behind him, shouting, Doraemon! Doraemon! Ha 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 ha, what's the point of calling for Doraemon now? Sunio laughed heartily, placed a pebble on his slingshot, and pulled back the bow, shouting, Jian! Go for it! Alright, Sunio, I've been itching to try it for ages. Fat Tiger said excitedly, in this kind of thing, Fat Tiger is a master, shooting pebbles with a bow. Biu. Biu. 2 pebbles were shot at Nobita, who was standing in front of Shiro. Nobita instinctively closed his eyes and put his hands in front of his face. But the pain he expected didn't come. Nobita opened his eyes in confusion and found that Shiraishi was now blocking his way. Shiraishi held 2 pebbles in each hand and bounced them around like Sunio had just done. Are you guys even capable, Jian and Sunio? Shiraishi made a sarcastic remark, but he couldn't say anything about the two's behavior. That's just how brats are. You. Sunio, seeing Shiraishi's arrogance, was so enraged by Shiraishi's words that his face turned red. He gritted his teeth and shouted, Jian, let's fire in quick succession. Roger that. This kid's too arrogant. Oink oink. In an instant, 4 more pebbles were launched at the white stone. However, Bai Shi quickly blocked them all with his hands, and they fell to the ground with a thud. UBD. Jian was furious and stopped listening to Sunio's commands, firing pebbles like a machine gun. Unfortunately, every shot was blocked by Shiraishi. It fell to the ground with a thud. Cousin Shiraishi! You're amazing! Nobita was stunned, then shouted excitedly, ha ha ha, we must teach Jian and Sunio a lesson. Let them see how powerful you are. Right now. Jian and Sunio were completely stunned by Shiraishi's actions, especially Sunio, who quickly showed fear and turned to run away. Chapter 15. You monster! Fat Tiger also looked surprised. To the children, Shiraishi's move was nothing short of divine, it was incredibly impressive. Regardless of whether they can win or not. Whenever I see this kind of operation, I reflexively think that this guy is very strong, ridiculously strong, and then I want to run away in panic. Even if, in reality, Shiraishi's size is nothing compared to Jian's, it doesn't matter. This is a fear that stems from psychological factors. Sunio, and Jian are thinking about this right now. Just then, Xiaofu turned around and was about to run away. A smile appeared on Shiraishi's face as he casually tossed a pebble from his hand. Whoosh! It was thrown by hand, but it felt more powerful than a slingshot, hitting Xiaofu directly on the thigh. All I heard was a cry of pain. Xiaofu fell to the ground with a thud, retreating repeatedly in front of Bai Shi, terrified. Shiraishi grinned slyly, tossing another pebble in his hand, and slowly approached Sunio, saying, "Sunio, what did you call me just now? What's so strange about that?" "No, no, 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 you misheard, cousin, you misheard." As Xiaofu backed away, he broke out in a cold sweat. Then he waved his hand, but unfortunately his foot hurt, so he could only rub his feet on the ground. "Fat tiger, where do you think you're going to run to?" Shiraishi didn't even glance at it. He then threw another pebble, which shot down Fat Tiger, who was halfway down the tree and about to run away. It's the same sound, ouch! Fat Tiger fell straight into the bushes. Then, she quickly and consciously climbed over to Xiaofu's side, leaned against him, and looked at Shiraishi with trembling eyes. Those who don't know might think Shiraishi is a great demon king, while Jian and Sunio are just bullied commoners. "Cousin! Cousin! You're amazing!" Nobita watched the whole thing, his face full of excitement, his hands constantly waving as if in martial arts poses. "Those Jian and Sunio actually tricked us into coming here to ambush us. They're so mean. We have to teach them a lesson." Nobita, you're right." Shiraishi nodded in agreement, then glanced at the two of them. "Cousin Shiraishi. Don't listen to Nobita." Jian and Sunio pressed their faces together, their fingers intertwined, and they were both in tears. "Why won't you listen?" Shiraishi deliberately lowered his voice. Just like the villains in cartoons. He bent slightly, squinted at them, and said in a very authoritative tone, "I think the best way to deal with you two naughty kids is to break the hands that are holding slingshots." "Ah! Mom!" Jian and Sunio couldn't hold back any longer and turned to run away, calling out for their mother as they ran. "Ha ha ha ha! Jian and Sunio are just too funny! Ah ha 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 ha!" Nobita burst into laughter, watching the two run away. Shiraishi's eyes were also full of smiles. He straightened up, crossed his arms, and said in a nonchalant tone, "I'm thinking about something. Should I tell your mother about what's going on here, Fat Tiger?" Jian stopped abruptly, and then grabbed Sunio, who was about to continue running away. "Ah! Jian! Why are you grabbing me? Cousin Shiraishi only mentioned you, didn't he?" Jian ignored Sunio's wailing. She grabbed him and turned him around, then ran to Shiraishi's side with a very obsequious smile, saying, "Hee hee, hee hee. Cousin Shiraishi, this whole thing was planned by that guy Xiaofu, it has nothing to do with me. That guy Xiaofu is really despicable. If you want, I'll definitely teach him a lesson for you." It seems to be to prove the credibility of what he said. Jian then viciously punched Sunio on the head, causing Sunio to crouch down and cover his head in defense. Shiraishi couldn't help but chuckle, but he managed to suppress his laughter. Besides his love for bullying others, Jian has another unique characteristic. That's a truly filial son, someone who cares deeply about his family. He hates it most when his mother finds out that he bullies others outside, he'll definitely get a beating. In the eyes of a child of this age, parents are more terrifying than anything else, and even the king of kids, Fat Tiger, is no exception. Really? Before Shiraishi could speak, Nobita, standing beside him, said suspiciously. A well character appeared on Jian's forehead. "You stinky Nobita, are you questioning me, Jian? However, when you're under someone's roof, you have to bow your head." Jian could only nod repeatedly and say, of course, it must be Sunio's scheme. I was just tricked into coming here. What the hell, Jian? You were the one who came first. Wah. Once the pain subsided, Xiaofu became a little anxious when he heard Jian speaking, but Jian quickly covered his mouth with his hand with a smirk. I think so too. Nobita, looking up, couldn't see anything wrong at all. Instead, he nodded seriously and said, Jian is definitely not the kind of person who could come up with such an idea. Only someone like Sunio, who looks cunning at first glance, would come up with such an idea. In that instant, the character appeared on the foreheads of both Jian and Sunio. Nobita. UBD. Seriously, that's so infuriating. Chapter 16. It's obvious. Jian and Sunio are really angry. Even with Shiraishi, a powerful friend who makes them feel like they have to bow their heads under someone else's roof, they still have to endure it. They couldn't help but feel their skin turning red. His eyes were filled with murderous intent, as if he wanted to rush up and devour Nobita alive right now. Nobita, you're really amazing. Shiraishi gave Nobita a thumbs up, looking at him with great amazement. Goodness! He genuinely admired Nobita's ability. With just one short sentence, he offended both Jian and Sunio. That statement is no different from pointing your finger at Jian and saying he's a pig-headed person, or that Sunio looks like a bad guy. No wonder Nobita often gets beaten up. Even if it were Shiraishi, he would still beat him up. That kid's words really deserve a beating. No, you're still the best, cousin Shiraishi. Nobita clearly didn't realize what Shiraishi meant. He even scratched his head sheepishly. It's hopeless. Shiraishi helplessly covered his forehead. He couldn't help but want to punch Nobita. But right now, it's better to deal with the two of them, Jian and Sunio, first. They noticed that Shiraishi was looking at them. Jian immediately stood at attention, nearly choking Sunio. Ouch! Suddenly, Shiraishi twitched his left hand, then began pressing the muscles in his left hand with his right, his brow furrowing slightly as he said, Ouch, why does my hand hurt a little? Ouch, both my hands hurt a little. Were you hurt by you just now? What if I suffer any lasting effects? I think I should talk to your mother, otherwise how will she get me to the hospital? Although this was utter nonsense, neither Jian, Sunio, nor even Nobita believed Shiraishi's lies, and their performances were quite clumsy. But Jian is still quite shrewd in these situations. He immediately gave Xiaofu a push. Then she fawned over Shiraishi and massaged his left hand, while Sunio was forced to massage his right hand. Cousin Shiraishi, let me give you a massage. The two of them acted like lackeys. He clung to Beishi and sat him down on the bench next to him. How are you feeling, cousin Shiraishi? It's okay, it would be even better if you pressed harder. No problem, no problem. Sunio. Didn't you eat? Okay. Okay. Why am I suddenly thirsty again? Sunio. Hurry up and buy the best drink for cousin Shiraishi. No, it has to be not only the best, but also the most expensive. Do you understand? Hey! Why do I have to go? And why the most expensive one? Nonsense, you're the richest person here. Why would I go if not you? Hey! I understand, I understand. Sunio was intimidated by Jian's threatening gaze. He couldn't afford to offend Shiraishi, and he couldn't afford to offend Jian either. With a long face, he could only run quickly down the mountain, complaining as he ran, what the hell? It was Fat Tiger who came to my house first. Cousin Shiraishi only threatened to tell your mother, not that he was going to tell her. You shouldn't have left me here. That wretched Fat Tiger. Sunio. What are you doing? Can't you hurry up? Can't you see that Shiraishi NII is incredibly thirsty? Okay, okay, I really understand, please stop rushing me. Shiraishi watched as Jian massaged him while he drank Sprite, a rather luxurious beverage for his age. Nobita Nobi watched from the side. The admiration in his eyes was almost overflowing. Cousin Shiraishi is so amazing, so amazing. I want to become a man like him when I grow up. If Shiraishi knew what Nobita was thinking, he would only say, young man, if you want to become a man like me, first learn how to bask in the sun and become stronger. How was it, cousin Shiraishi? Was the drink good? Was the massage comfortable? Jian is acting like a complete sycophant right now, really not wanting Shiraishi to tattle on him. For many children of this age, tattling is a very shameful thing, but Shiraishi would never think that way. This kind of brat needs to be tattled on so his parents can teach him a lesson. Of course, since little fatty tiger had already done this, Shiraishi naturally wouldn't go and complain. If he still doesn't repent, he definitely won't hesitate to report him to the police. And so, they tortured Jian and Sunio for about an hour, making them run up and down, buying this snack and that drink, which was equivalent to climbing mountains several times. In the end, Jian and Sunio ran separately, both of them exhausted, collapsing on the ground panting heavily, unable to speak. All right, let's go, Nobita. Shiraishi stood up, stretched, and then led Nobita away from the back mountain. Only Jian and Sunio were left panting heavily, drenched in sweat, their clothes completely soaked. Huff, huff, huff. Jian and Sunio exchanged a glance. My cousin Shiraishi is terrifying. I must never offend him again. That's terrifying, absolutely terrifying. Clearly, Shiraishi's ordeal had left Jian and Sunio with psychological trauma. They rested for half an hour, panting heavily, before finally managing to recover and help each other climb down the mountain. Chapter 17. Back home. Doraemon is sitting alone in his room, looking out the window at the scenery, feeling emo because his date with Mimi fell through. Well. Nobita rushed up to Doraemon with a carefree attitude, unable to contain his excitement, and exclaimed, Doraemon! Do you know what just happened? What happened? Doraemon glanced at Nobita and asked listlessly. He is now completely despondent. Xiaomi seemed angry just now and ignored him. I don't know what to do to coax her back. Just now, Fat Tiger and Sunio invited us to the back mountain, lying to me that they wanted to invite cousin Shiraishi along so they could apologize to him. But actually, those two guys brought slingshots with them, they just wanted to bully me and my cousin Shiraishi. Before Nobita could finish speaking, Doraemon was already fuming, puffing out his beard and glaring at him. The frustration he had just felt from Xiaomi exploded at this moment. What? Jian and Sunio, those two annoying guys. Doraemon, with lightning-fast reflexes and a flushed face, was so angry that he pulled out 3 air cannons and 3 bamboo copters from his 4-dimensional magic pocket. Follow me. I'm going to teach these two a lesson they'll learn, and show them what Doraemon is all about. It's clear that Doraemon is really angry. If it's just Nobita being bullied because of Xiaomi just now, he might not even bother with Desyong and just let it go with a casual "oh." It's just that Nobita is often bullied by Jian and Sunio, and there's no way to change that. He stood up for him today, but he'll still be bullied tomorrow. Children are like that, they don't remember the pain. The main issue is that Shiraishi was also involved. In Doraemon's eyes, Shiraishi was simply the best cousin imaginable. They've gone too far by bullying even people like that. I can't stand it. I simply can't stand it. Forget it, forget it. Shiraishi and Nobita were both startled. Nobita rarely sees an angry Doraemon. Shiraishi was terrified that Doraemon would blast Jian and Sunio to death with a single shot. You know, Doraemon is a childcare robot who can pull out a galactic destruction bomb when getting rid of mice. No, brother do, calm down, brother do. Shiraishi and Nobita hugged Doraemon together. He kept trying to calm Doraemon down. No way. I have to teach them a lesson. These two bastards dare to bully my cousin, they're absolutely despicable. Doraemon was so angry he lost his mind. The bamboo dragonfly was spinning on his head, almost dragging Shiraishi and Nobita into flight. Forget it, really forget it, it's not that bad, it's really not that bad. Shiraishi could only hold on to Doraemon and then try to persuade him with earnest words. That's right. Besides, cousin Shiraishi has already taught Jian and Sunio a lesson. Doraemon, you don't need to do anything. Nobita's words made Doraemon stop in his tracks. The bamboo dragonfly slowly came to a stop, and he turned his head, uttering a blank sound. Hey? What? Nobita was slightly taken aback, then quickly said, Brother Shiraishi has already taught Jian and Sunio a lesson, you don't need to go anymore, Doraemon. Yes, I always believe in settling scores on the spot. How could I not teach them a lesson? Shiraishi also tried to persuade him from the side. Really? Doraemon glanced at Nobita and Shiraishi suspiciously. I have a feeling that these two are teaming up to fool me. What's going on? After all, just by looking at his physique, you would never guess that Shiraishi could beat Jian. Of course it's true, would we lie to you? Shiraishi tried to dissuade him again, then crossed his arms and said, Besides, you're underestimating me too much. How could Jian and Sunio possibly be my match? Yet, Doraemon, you have no idea how cool Shiraishi was just now. He easily taught Jian and Sunio a lesson. Just thinking about it makes me laugh so hard. Nobita Nobi felt a sense of satisfaction recalling the scene from earlier. Even Doraemon stopped pulling him, and he just rolled around on the ground, laughing out loud. Jian, who loves to bully others, and Sunio, who is arrogant and loves to show off. He's completely become his cousin Shiraishi's servant. Real. But Doraemon was still suspicious. Wait a minute, I'll prove it to you. Shiraishi looked to the left and right, then looked at Doraemon, his eyes lighting up slightly. Then he walked over to Doraemon, hugged Doraemon's big head, and took a deep breath. Then suddenly hold it in. Doraemon was lifted upside down and held upside down. Wah-ah-ah-ah-ah. Doraemon was startled, fell head first, and waved his short arms and legs, but was held firmly by Shiraishi. I understand, cousin Shiraishi. Put me down now, I believe you can teach Jian and Sunio a lesson. Upon hearing this, Shiraishi finally put Doraemon down. He also patted his hands to remove non-existent dust. Now you believe me, right? Bai Shi sat cross-legged on the ground and asked sarcastically. I believed it completely. Doraemon looked at Shiraishi with an inhuman gaze, thinking, that strength is just too much. Chapter 18. Cousin, you're amazing, you can even pick up Doraemon. Nobita, standing nearby, was already stunned. You know, he also tried to hug Doraemon, but he didn't budge an inch. Although he wasn't very strong. Even Jian couldn't lift it, which should tell you something. What do you mean, Nobita? Are you saying I'm heavy and fat? Doraemon glanced at Nobita sideways. Of course not, of course not. Ah ha ha ha. Nobita quickly waved his hand. Humph. Her weight is just that of a normal robot, she's not fat at all, in fact, she's quite slender. Doraemon stood with his hands on his hips, looking quite proud. Slender. Puff. Nobita and Shiraishi looked at Doraemon's barrel-like figure, exchanged a glance, and almost burst out laughing. Hey! What are you laughing at? Am I not telling the truth? Doraemon was furious again, his arms crossed, glaring fiercely at Shiraishi and Nobita. Of course not, of course not. Shiraishi and Nobita waved their hands repeatedly. Forget it, I'm too lazy to argue with you guys. Doraemon pouted and said nonchalantly, but, cousin Shiraishi, your strength is really too great. No wonder Dad said you were born with superhuman strength. I didn't believe it at first. Yes, I didn't believe it before either. Nobita Nobi chimed in from the side. Now you believe me, right? Shiraishi spread his hands out. I believe it. Doraemon and Nobita nodded at the same time. There's nothing I can do if I don't believe it, the facts are right in front of me. Can disbelief change the facts? You should know that Doraemon may be small in stature. But don't forget that he's a robot just because his words and actions are full of wisdom. Doraemon weighs a whopping 129.3 kilograms. That's a full 250 jin. That's the weight of 2 normal adults. Shiraishi was able to be picked up at such a young age, isn't that a sign of superhuman strength? Cough cough. It is worth mentioning. Doraemon's weight is 129.3. Height, head circumference, chest circumference, waist circumference, and hip circumference are all 129.3. No, not at all. Shiraishi waved his hand modestly. Doraemon is so heavy, he couldn't even lift him yesterday. It was only after he got some extra sunshine today that I was able to pick him up, albeit with difficulty. Don't be modest, cousin Beishi, you truly possess superhuman strength. Doraemon and Nobita give a thumbs up together. The three of them looked at each other and burst into laughter. Next, Nobita told Doraemon about what had just happened. Doraemon exclaimed in surprise, looking at Shiraishi with an admiring gaze. The two of them showered Shiraishi with praise. In response, Shiraishi could only tell them to sit down, keep it down, keep it down. Since the last time, Jian and Sunio's attitude towards Shiraishi improved considerably. He kept calling me cousin repeatedly. During her time with Shiraishi, she discovered that he was a very easygoing friend, and she started calling him cousin more naturally, gradually becoming less reserved. This is something Shiraishi would like to see. After all, he didn't want to actually scare Jian and Sunio, that would ruin the fun. This is Doraemon, my childhood memory. However, they didn't play together for more than a few days, because on the third day after Shiraishi came to this world, Sunio was taken on a trip by his cousin. It's said they're going to some kind of beach. The next 2.5 days passed peacefully. It's worth mentioning that Shiraishi was giving Nobita a good talking to just a few days ago. As it turns out, Nobita, being such a good-for-nothing, only had a bit of passion for those few days. Fortunately, Shiraishi had gained a lot of experience from Nobita in the past few days, and his teaching skills had reached the intermediate level. Once you reach the intermediate level, the required proficiency level increases 5-fold. Shiraishi could understand, after all, the difference between beginner and intermediate levels was almost comparable to the difference between an ordinary teacher and a professor. If it reaches the advanced level, it would probably be at the highest level of humankind. Any higher, that's not yet within Shiraishi's current imagination. Another thing worth mentioning is that Shiraishi has gained a few more skills in the past few days. We need to teach Nobita. Shiraishi inevitably had to go back and review his studies again. This also allowed him to acquire some skills. Host, Shiraishi. Physical constitution, Little Superman. Skills, Intermediate Teaching, 3/500, Intermediate Mathematics, 12/500, Intermediate Hyuxia Language, 1/500. Number of draws, 1. In both mathematics and Hyuxia, Beishi was at the intermediate level from the beginning. After all, he does have a solid foundation in the field. The only chance to win a prize was as a bonus for advancing from the beginner to the intermediate level in the tutorial. It was only then that Shiraishi realized that upgrading skills could also grant him chances to draw prizes. Let's try our luck in the lottery and see what we can win. Shiraishi rubbed his hands together. Last time it was a newbie gift pack, which could also be considered a lottery. As a result, he was drawn to have the incredibly beneficial superhuman physique, which allows him to become stronger simply by basking in the sun. Come on, let's have a lucky draw. Start the prize draw. The words had barely left his mouth. A disc appeared in front of Shiroshi. The lucky draw will begin immediately. The pointer in the center of the disc didn't move, but the disc began to spin rapidly. Shiraishi used his extraordinary eyesight to try his best to capture some pattern, but afterwards he found that he could not capture anything. That's true. If he could really figure out the pattern, that would be amazing. About 3 seconds later, the disc slowly came to a stop, and the pointer pointed to a special skill. Chapter 19. Ding! Congratulations, host, you have drawn the special skill Psychic Power. Initiating fusion. Just like the physique of the lucky winner. Several blue beams of light appeared out of thin air, slowly circling around Baishi's body before entering between his eyebrows. He closed his eyes in enjoyment, and after a while, he slowly opened them. Host, Shiraishi. Physical Constitution, Little Superman. Skills, Intermediate Teaching, 3/500, Intermediate Mathematics, 12/500, Intermediate Hyuxia Language, 1/500. Special Skill, Basic Telekinesis, 0/500. Number of draws, 0. Psychic Power. Shiraishi looked pleasantly surprised. Just as the system described, the lottery draw contained special skills that I couldn't learn. He looked at the pen on the desk next to him and tried to lift it with his telekinesis. Shiraishi stared intently at the pen. With his constant urging, the pen was slowly lifted up and floated shakily in mid-air. Very good. Baishi's face lit up with joy. Just like a child who has just received a new toy, he draws all sorts of patterns in the sky with this pen. The telekinesis felt to Shiraishi like another, non-existent hand. That feeling was wonderful, it couldn't be described in words. Ding! Special Skill Psychic Power used, Proficiency +1. Ding! Special Skill Psychic Power used, Proficiency +1. Ding! Special Skill Psychic Power used, Proficiency +1. However, Shiraishi hasn't been playing for very long yet. He felt a weakness coming from the depths of his soul, his face quickly turned from rosy to pale, his legs staggered, and the pen fell straight to the ground. Hiss! Shiraishi covered his head and gasped. His physical body was still fine, after all, Superman's physique was no joke, but his soul was extremely exhausted. This level of mental power is still too weak. I get exhausted just from moving the pen. Shiraishi shook his head. Host, Shiraishi. Physical Constitution, Little Superman. Skills, Intermediate Teaching, 3/500, Intermediate Mathematics, 12/500, Intermediate Hyuxia Language, 1/500. Special Skill, Basic Telekinesis, 5/500. Number of draws, 0. Special skills are special skills, even at the beginner level, it takes 500 proficiency points to upgrade. Moreover, Shiraishi only gained 5 points of proficiency after playing until he was exhausted. That's really an exaggeration. Shiraishi estimated that he needed a good rest before he could continue to gain proficiency. Based on this calculation, Shiraishi estimates that he can only gain a maximum of 7 to 8 proficiency points per day. It takes 2 months to advance one level. This is just the beginning. If you reach the intermediate level, who knows how much proficiency is required? 1000. There are definitely more than that. Even for basic skills, the proficiency increases 5-fold from beginner to intermediate levels. Special skills, definitely at least 5 times. Moreover, the uniqueness of special skills may be even greater. Just thinking about it gave Shiraishi a headache. Good heavens, when will he ever reach the advanced level? Of course, that's not how it's calculated. Because as your proficiency in telekinesis increases, Shiroishi will have more and more time to use his nin abilities each day, which will naturally increase his proficiency. Therefore, it doesn't actually take 2 months to advance to the intermediate level, it might only take 40 or 50 days. Even so, it's still terrifying compared to ordinary skills. It's worth noting that Shiraishi leveled up his ordinary skills to intermediate level in just 1 week. It's understandable that special skills are stronger than ordinary skills. Shiraishi lay down on the tatami mat to rest. At this moment, da-da-da! Hurried footsteps sounded, and you could tell at a glance that Nobita was chasing Doraemon. Sure enough, Doraemon opened the door first, with Nobita following behind. Doraemon. As soon as Doraemon entered the house, Nobita hugged Doraemon's big blue head and burst into tears. Nobita! I already told you, I don't have a pirate sword. Doraemon looked up at the sky speechlessly and said, as a childcare robot, how could I possibly have anything dangerous like that? Puff! Shiraishi almost couldn't help but laugh out loud. No, he actually burst out laughing. Cousin Shiraishi, what are you laughing at? Doraemon, feeling miserable from Nobita's torment, couldn't help but look at Shiraishi upon hearing his laughter. Nobita also stopped his tears from streaming down his face. It's nothing, it's nothing. Baishi waved his hand repeatedly. Well, I just couldn't help but feel a little upset when Doraemon said that he was a childcare robot and didn't have dangerous things like pirate swords. Not wanting to say more, he quickly changed the subject, saying, Nobita, why are you bothering Doraemon again? I just wanted to ask Doraemon for a pirate sword. Remembering this, Nobita started crying again, hugging and ruffling Doraemon's head, saying, Brother Shiraishi, look at my pirate hat. All I'm missing is a pirate sword. Jian promised to play a pirate game with me, and if I don't find the pirate sword, he's definitely going to beat me up. Doraemon, please help me. Doraemon was really annoyed. Nobita. I already told you, I'm a childcare robot, how could I have something like a sword? Chapter 20. Shiraishi felt that the plot sounded very familiar. Or perhaps it's the start of a theatrical film's plot. He was somewhat puzzled, but couldn't recall the specifics. There's nothing we can do about it. Shiraishi is indeed a die-hard Doraemon fan. But that was during the period from 6th grade to junior high school. I know all of Doraemon's movies by heart, and I've watched each one countless times. But junior high school is the age when students love to show off and care the most about their image. Shiraishi once wanted to share Doraemon stories with her friends, but they laughed at her for being so old and still watching Doraemon. Since then, Shiraishi has rarely watched Doraemon. Looking back, I was so foolish to care about what people were saying. But there's no way around it. How can you call it